What's up, people? Welcome to a Fantastic Friday on a wild week that has seen dogs on stages, former presidents hug the empty firefighting suit of the man who was killed instead of him. We're not even a week out from an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. But we're moving on, people, because there's more pressing things afoot. And let's be real, we still don't actually have a medical report from whatever the fuck happened on Saturday. Who knows? You never know. Thank you so much to everyone who is here, who's watching live, who is listening after the fact. Remember, this is the third prong of this show. You know, the main meat is on our Tuesdays. The Wednesdays is for bonus content, is for all the patrons. We had a great show on Wednesday. We sort of tackled the first half of the RNC and some of the wild things we've seen. Talked about Amber Rose, who I guess I confused with Amber Heard multiple times. Sick. Amber Rose, who's someone you shouldn't have to know, now throwing down with MAGA because that's the only celebrities they can. Since that, though, we saw Hulk Hogan on the last night of the RNC. We also saw Donald Trump ignore a clear sign of affection from his own daughter, Tiffany, as she went in to try to kiss him, and he completely just brushed her off, completely just turned his body away from her. Don't get anywhere near me. You can kiss the little ear, you can kiss the bandage, but don't kiss me. I'm afraid I'll catch ugly, or, you know, less than a 7. Like, which is also just like, oh my God, Tiffany's gone on Ozempic for you, okay? Tiffany married like some rich oil baron for you, you fucking ungrateful prick. Like, I'm sorry, but let's be like, Donald Trump is so interpersonally awful to his own family. We've seen a lot of things. And on Wednesday, if you want to become a patron, patreon.com/Bitchuation Room, or you want to be a member on YouTube or Twitch, we also looked at some of Biden's misgivings lately, some of his latest round of media appearances, and not only how much they demonstrate that he is not well, but also that he is not in reality, especially when it comes to things like Gaza. And now we know he got COVID. So, you know, I guess that explains the brain fog. I'm not sure. I think they should look. I'm always trying to spin things for the Biden team. I think they should back time this and be like, actually, he got COVID from Trump, even though they didn't shake hands. He had COVID that whole time 3 weeks ago. It's long COVID. That's what it is. But so that's where things stand. It's a pretty depressing week. And yet, there seem to be signs that the writing is on the wall for Joe Biden. It seems as though he may, in fact, step down as soon as Sunday. So if you're listening to me, he might have already stepped down, or at least not from the presidency, but not running for re-election. I want to get into that a little bit more. I think there's some just like, there's some wild things that are being reported right now in relationship to that. One of them, I don't know. Mark Halperin is reporting, but he's Newsmax. Like, I don't like there's all these like rando people who are reporting what they heard from some sort of insider, and a lot of it remains to be seen. We don't know. So, like, am I going to trust a guy from Newsmax? I don't think so. But there's apparently, yes, that his family is now weighing, Joe Biden's family is waiting whether or not or how to exit this campaign. And as we will talk about shortly, AOC is questioning whether that's even legal and whether or not Republicans are going to try and by all costs make sure Joe Biden remains in the race, which of course they would. That is, I guess, the smart thing to do, even though, of course, who would we want to run against a criminal mastermind? But that's where that stands. I want to talk a little bit about JD Vance later on. I want to save Sean O'Brien for Tuesday because comedian and labor organizer Nato Green is going to be back on the show. And I feel like he will have some really good insight and, analysis around a Teamsters president speaking in front of the RNC. Was it worth it? Is he going to get anything for it? Was it just a bit? But I did want to mention, before we get into what AOC said on Instagram, because she had a very long Instagram live, and I wanted to watch some of it with you guys and respond. I did want to respond to, because I love my patrons, I love the patrones, I love the Frantifa, and I love that you support this show. In fact, this show is dedicated to John Reed. You know who you are. New member of the innermost cabal of the Frantifa. But Monica P. over on Patreon says, I'm angry that all my streamers, including you, have fell for the oligarchical run media narrative that Biden can't win. They just don't want to pay taxes. I know Biden has disappointed us all on his support for Israel, but he might be the only one that can get a peace deal. I know you're laughing at this boomer, but I don't think that any of the so-called replacements will be any better. And then, Monica goes into feeling like, that basically we're all playing into the oligarchy. And she concludes, if we don't unite behind Joe, we lose. The election will be only be won by swing and undecided voters who Biden has a 20% lead over Trump. That is not true. He does not have a 20% lead over Donald Trump in swing districts. We just looked at that the other day. It is far tighter than that. And I did want to bring up that the undecided voters who were polled after the debate were, at least, this is according to Reuters, were like, oh, I'm going to vote for Trump now. That being said, not every undecided voter even watched the debate. And not every voter watched the debate. Some people, sight unseen, of course, will still vote for Joe Biden because at this point, it is that or Donald Trump. So there's a lot of questions out there, but I did want to respond to, I think, some legitimate concerns that you, Monica, and I think other people have raised, which is, why do we trust some of the same people who were circling wagons around Joe Biden this entire, for like a year now, about whether or not he is fit for re-election? Now, I will single out Ezra Klein as a centrist who was blowing the whistle on Joe Biden's mental state back before an event that I think changed everything. He's been consistent, in fact, throughout this whole thing. But I hear you. I think that deep, there's part of me that's like, I mistrust a lot of these people. And even though the polling is really bad for Joe Biden, his approval rating is what, like 32%, 37%? It's low. Even though all the polls are showing he gonna lose, there is a 2016 part of me that doesn't trust the polls. But also, I'm not a pollster. I'm not an expert when it comes to these polls. But I will say that after all predictions showed that Hillary Clinton would win against Donald Trump, I'm like, you know what? Fuck a poll forever and ever. All we need is voter turnout. And largely, I still believe that. I believe that voter turnout is the only thing that can overwhelm attempts to steal an election, attempts to suppress the vote, attempts to prevent people, prevent people from the ballot box. You need to overwhelm, or they say, yes, overwhelm the steal. But so I hear you. I trust me when I tell you I am not part of the oligarchy. And also I think that, and we'll get into what AOC said, there's something that she said that I agree with, which is nobody knows the answer to this problem of Joe Biden staying, losing, and beating Donald Trump. And we should absolutely take a page out of the French elections and not antagonize one another. I've never called the people who want Joe Biden to stay to be crazy. The only time that I criticize them is when they do what I would call incredibly bad faith and actually like insulting and disparaging things to the people who want to change horses, to the people who rightly see what's going on and are like, you got Kamala right there. And that is say the following: oh, you just want Trump to win. Enjoy the gulag, right? And that is what has earned them the moniker of Blue MAGA, because it becomes more of a cult despite the realities that are in front of your face. And so I think if we all can say, we can see the realities, but jumping to the conclusions like I'm the pundit that knows, or I'm the person that knows. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I likened this moment to what happened after COVID, when everyone was like, what the fuck do we do? Oh my God, wait, there's no masks. Do we wear masks? What do we do? And it's so funny because I know it's still that moment. And I don't know if I don't think I said this anecdote before, because my mom, who I've referenced many times on the show, my mom is like texting me her ideas for who should be the Democratic nominee for president. Like, it should be Barack Obama and Joe Biden. And it's like, well, first of all, Barack Obama couldn't be Veep, or he couldn't be president, but he couldn't be Veep, because if something happened to Joe, it means he would serve more than 8 terms or 8 years. But again, it's that feeling of free fall. It's that feeling of nobody's in control. And so I think what we shouldn't do in this moment is antagonize people or say that they're, yes, stupid or wrong for believing one thing or another. We all want the same thing, which is getting rid of Donald Trump in November. Now, there are others who say, you know, fuck Joe Biden no matter what. Let's vote Jill Stein, or let's vote Cornel West or Marianne Williamson if she's currently still running. I understand that. I disagree. I have disagreed. I still disagree. I don't disagree with a third party candidate. I don't disagree with a third party run. I don't think it is a useful, it's not using your vote wisely. And again, voting is a fraction of how we should all be politically engaged every single day, locally, statewide, nationally. It's the reason we get fucked by Republicans, is they pay attention to local elections, and somehow we're just looking at the big picture, I guess. So I don't agree with that, but I understand what you're saying. And I think there's other people who are like, yeah, Joe Biden, because of the genocide, deserves to lose. And as I've said before, I do think he deserves to lose, but I think we deserve to win should he stay in. And the reason I said that, there's some people who've kept it real about Joe Biden needing to drop out, and there's other people who kind of were putting it on the back burner, is that the thing that's changed in the last year is that we're in wartime. We are in wartime. Our country is standing alongside a murderous regime in Israel and in Benjamin Netanyahu. And we are full-throatedly supporting the mass murder of women, children, civilians, for retribution from the acts of October 7th. That's what's happened. And what happens in wartime is that all criticisms of the commander-in-chief take a back burner. And not only that, but that those people who are rightfully pointing out, hey, this is turning your base against you, were sidelined and silenced and told that they were either anti-Semitic or loved Trump, or both. That's the difference. That's the difference. Is that a lot? And I said this, posted it on Instagram, TikTok. You can check it out. I said this before, but a lot of those folks thought, oh, this whole Israel thing, that'll be buttoned up by the summer. This will be done. This will be done. And we can move on. It's not done. Every single day, hundreds of people are dying, are being injured, are being maimed, are suffering famine. So that's the context. There's a reason, not just the debate, but there's a reason this wasn't really coming to fruition. And I think Monica has a really good point, which is there's some good stuff he's done. Student debt relief. He just canceled more this week. The Inflation Reduction Act, which is really a climate bill. He's jump-started the Climate Corps. His NLRB positions, the National Labor Relations Board, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. There are amazing people in this administration. They have done good work. sadly, he is not able to communicate the work that they've done. And sadly, I mean, and we saw one, right, in Tariq Habash, who came on this show, who was part of the Department of Education, who resigned in protest. He's Palestinian over the behavior of this administration, which so runs in counter to its professed liberal ideals. So you are absolutely right. And there is even a case to make that maybe Joe Biden is more progressive than anyone else who's at least being talked about publicly to replace him. Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, I don't really know, but like Pritzker, even Kamala Harris on a number of like corporate friendly issues, but perhaps not on Gaza. Kamala Harris, anyone is to the less genocidal side of the issue than Joe Biden. The guy doesn't know where he just knows he's a Zionist and that's it. He's willing, just like Zionists are willing, to do literally anything it takes to protect Israel or so-called protect Israel, even if it means killing 2 million people. That's part of it. Genocide is going to be is a high price to pay, but they'll pay it. So I hear that, I see you, and I want to just play AOC because she went live on Instagram the other night, last night, and she lays out an interesting case here for why Joe Biden should stay. And we will talk about the particular arguments that she makes and my reaction to it. And I think she brings up some good points that some of them I have echoed here, but we won't watch all of it, but I want to watch this sort of a chunk of it.
I totally can concede that a person very invested can have all these counterpoints to that. Now, to me, like brass tacks, when I think about the case in terms of supporting a Joe Biden presidency or being okay with Joe Biden continuing to be the nominee, I'm looking at a watch, and I'm looking at a clock, and I'm looking at a calendar. And I think that if personally, people want to have this conversation 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago, it's a very different landscape of logistics. Every single person, I shouldn't say every single person, I'm going to say in this class of people that you see coming out now, right? If you're an everyday person that has this opinion, I'm not coming for you. But this whole class of people who are coming with this other opinion now have supported the president the entire time. And many of those people are the same people who closed ranks around anybody who even wanted to raise this conversation a year ago. Fine. But we need to me, like I'm looking at a lot of different things. And I want to communicate some things, even if you don't, particularly the case for even if you don't support the president.
Okay, so I just want to name, she said, and she hasn't really like nailed the argument there, but she was like, basically, the same people who, like I said, who are calling for him to step down were the ones who circled the wagons and closed ranks around him a year ago, who said, there will be no serious Democratic primary. We aren't going to seriously discuss his mental fitness. We are going to hide him away from the news media because maybe that was on purpose, because in private and in the events that he did do, they could see that he was declining. And so I totally understand this, that why are we to trust these same people who were, saying a different thing a little bit ago? And I think 2 reasons. Number 1, because now we can all see it. And I think number 2, the reason the reason they're like changing their tune now is because, yes, we can all see it. The polling shows it. And I forgot what number 2 was, but I remember number 3. Number 3 is because they were all shutting the hell up and letting him do his war thing for these 12 months. Nobody wanted to be considered like anti-Semitic, right? Everyone was just being like, yeah, it's great, right? Oh, number 2 is never underestimate, and I think AOC should know this more than anyone else, never underestimate centrists' ability to shoot themselves in the foot. Never underestimate centrist ability to fuck something up. And so you can either read this as centrists always fuck it up and fuck them 2016, fuck them all the time, I don't trust them now. Or you could read it as, oh shit, some of these centrists are having their coming to Jesus moment about being so historically wrong about everything. And the fact that they wrapped up their concerns for the last, 9 months was a big ass problem. And they're all trying to like make up for it in rapid time. So that's, again, this is all smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of guessing. There's a lot of reverse psychology. I don't actually think it's that deep. I think centrists realize that they fucked up. They realize that, oh shit, they don't even care about Gaza, obviously. We should care about Gaza, and they should care about Gaza because it's the reason a lot of people are staying away from the polls. But they're saying like, oh shit, now we who love pomp, circumstance, appearances, Obama, hope, dream, inspiring quotes, put it on a fucking pillow and sell it on Etsy, make a poster of it. We who love all the bells and whistles of a campaign realize that you need those bells and whistles oftentimes to win a campaign. We don't got them. They don't got the bells, they don't got the whistles, and they sure as shit don't have the excitement or the energy now, that they had in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic with expanded voter rights, while Donald Trump was actually in office with a mass movement on the streets demanding racial justice. They don't have any of that. They don't have any of that. So I hear her, but I refute that I think it's because they're dumb. I think it's because they realize they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Some of them, again, Ezra Klein, no friend, but said it.
Continuing as the nominee on substance, merit.
I got to speed it up because she talks slow.
Policy, etc. Let's take that aside, right? What day is it right now? July 17th? I've been working like a bunch. So I think today is July 17th. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments if it's not. But the point is, even when this conversation was like really kicking up, July 13th, I think people need to understand the reality and the gravity of what these people are proposing. And I'm not saying this is all a reason not to do it, but I do think that people are talking about this without having two eyes wide open as to what this really means. The Democratic Convention is in 4 weeks or so. The state of Ohio has legal ballot access issues that require a name to be enrolled and certified on their ballot even before the convention. And that's not because of Democrats, that's because of Republicans. And to people, there are some people that quibble and they say, oh, well, that's not really true because they actually passed this other law that allows the deadline to change. That law that allowed that deadline to quote unquote change also gets enacted and enrolled something like 60 or 90 days after passage, which now puts us in a legal gray zone.
Okay, so this is the part where I was like, what the fuck is she talking about? What the fuck? And so what she is saying is that Ohio, which has is Republican-led, basically is doing all these shenanigans. Remember how they were like every state has a different way of doing the primary in this country, which is mind-boggling to an alien, an actual alien, not just the people that Republicans want to dehumanize. So like, it's just wild. But so Ohio was like, nah, we're going to be different. You can't put your, you can't have a primary until your convention, until you've decided that Joe Biden is the nominee. And so Democrats this entire time been like, okay, fuck. All right. So that's why this week that some of them had talked about having a virtual vote for Joe Biden so that they could qualify for the Ohio ballot. Now, this is from notus.org, and it basically explains what AOC is saying, that there could be a legal challenge to switching candidates mid-election. Now, let's remember, that would have all been taken care of had there been an actual primary, had the people who said the thing on the inside were saying the thing on the outside. And I mean, and interestingly, God, if we had moved up the debates were already moved up. Maybe they should have been moved up even higher. But anyway, so let's look at this. So inside the GOP's effort to make sure Biden is the Democratic nominee, This was written about a week ago or a week and a half ago. President Joe Biden's Democratic allies could get a boost to keep them on the ticket from some unlikely partners, Republicans, led by conservative think tank the Heritage Foundation of Project 2025 fame. Republicans are currently looking to guarantee that Biden will be the Democratic nominee and make it so that if Biden withdraws, it won't be easy to replace him on the ballots. While Biden's campaign insists he has no plan to drop out, Republicans are gearing up for any and all possibilities. They've been preparing for this moment for quite some time. Once again, say what you will about how fucking dumb Republicans are. When it comes to gamesmanship, they have the left beat. About 4 months ago, after special counsel Robert Hur's report raised more concerns about Biden's health, staffers at Heritage Oversight Project started researching laws in states across the country for replacing a nominee. They laid out how difficult it would be for the Democrats to replace Biden in key swing states in a memo that was compiled in early April and released last week ahead of the debate. Yeah, I mean, just because the Heritage Foundation did like some research on it doesn't make it so. I want to lay that out there. This is like doesn't make it. It's like fucking Jonathan Turley or whoever the fuck who's like, well, actually, you can have an alternate slate of electors. Like, just because they're Heritage Foundation people doesn't mean that they're going to win. But should it go to the highest court, that's another story. If the Biden family decides that President Biden will not run for re-election, the mechanisms for replacing him on ballots vary by state, reads the memo. There's a potential for pre-election litigation in some states that would make the process difficult and perhaps unsuccessful. The upshot was that replacing Biden on the ticket would be extraordinarily difficult, and we would make it extraordinarily difficult, Oversight Project Executive Director Mike Howell, who authored the member, told Not Us this week. With Biden's odds of winning looking longer by the minute, organizations like Heritage are pledging litigation to replace Biden close to impossible. They suggested they or their allies would challenge efforts to replace Biden on the ballot, which would already be difficult given the timing. The memo identifies Wisconsin, Nevada, and Georgia as attractive states for litigation to keep a new Democrat from replacing Biden on the ballot. We've zeroed in on a few states we think are the best case. It all depends on when and how they do it, he continued, and then what state that we're looking at now that matches up to be the right one, going in there and working with the right people. An urgent push to replace Biden could cripple the plan. Biden isn't on the general election ballot yet because he isn't officially the Democratic nominee, although the party currently plans to name Biden the nominee in a virtual roll call before the August convention. And the Democratic National Committee has no plans and is not anticipating a move to try to replace Biden. So the question is like, how can they're already primed for litigation, but he's not actually the official nominee. So why are they rushing the vote? Well, part of that has to do with fucking Ohio. So this is from Election Law Blog, the fucking blog I read every day. What? Is Ohio ballot access deadline a reason for Democrats to push through a virtual roll call before the convention to choose Biden? Almost certainly not. This is from Rick Hassan. So after a warning from the Ohio Secretary of State, the Democrats' late convention would come too late to notify Ohio to put its nominee on the ballot. So Ohio's like, no, August 18th is too late, or 19th, or it'll probably be the 20th. It's too late to put him on the ballot. Democrats decided to hold a virtual roll call early before the convention to meet the deadline. Ohio then changed its law so that notification after the Democratic convention would be timely. But that law doesn't take effect until September 1st. And some Democrats are warning that Ohio could backtrack and keep the Democratic nominee off the ballot. There's no indication that this would happen politically, and if it did, it seems just about certain that if Ohio tried to do so, a court would order Biden's name on the ballot. This instead seems to be a political move to rush Biden's nomination through amidst calls for some Democrats to replace him on the ticket. Okay, so that's Rick's perspective. Either way, this is some real rat fuckery shit here happening from Republican-controlled states who are like, oh, you say A, we're going to say B. If you say B, we're going to do A. But either way, we're going to take you to court to try to ensure that Joe Biden is still on the ticket. I don't know. So fuck Ohio and do a write-in. I'm like, I don't think it's worth it to risk rescinding. I think I don't know, you guys, but doesn't it seem more risky to risk litigation in swing states by rescinding your nominee versus fucking strong-arming Ohio. Like, what the fuck? The voters of Ohio would rise the fuck up. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's very, very concerning. But so that's what AOC is referencing. Again, the fuckery of the Republican Party knows no bounds. They're the ones who regularly, they love to fuck Democrats in all kinds of ways. I mean, case in point, pouring money into AIPAC so that they tank progressive challengers, right? The Republicans love to, if you have like open primaries, they love to encourage Republicans to, and the Democratic nominee is sort of a shoo-in. They love to encourage Republicans to switch parties on the day of, which you can do in some states, and vote for a Democrat who won't win, right? They love to prop up random third-party, small, long shot candidates with Republican money in order to fuck over the frontrunner. They do that all the time. Of course, Republicans do this because they know they can't win just outright.
So whether you think it's above board or whether you don't think it's above board, I can tell you that it is guaranteed and is virtually guaranteed, and it has been confirmed by the Republican Speaker of the House that Republicans are already preparing legal challenges to any name change on the ballot that may happen, occur, arise, or be possible. And so for us, I want us to, like, opening this conversation, I think it's important for us to consider the stakes, okay? Before we even get into the merits, talk about the stakes. If this is even something that can be opened, right? And
here's where I kind of disagree with her, and I'll explain.
We know is that we can virtually guarantee, Mike Johnson came out and said that they're absolutely preparing legal challenges to wherever it's possible. And I want to tell you, those legal challenges are most viable where? In the same handful of swing seats that are needed to win the presidency. I'm not saying every single one is counted out, but I am saying that's what's at the table. And guess what? Republicans, they mount that legal challenge. The possibility of our elections being decided by a Supreme Court ruling skyrocket. Okay? I'm not here to use fear. I'm not saying this to use fear to dissuade people out of their position. But I need us to understand the stakes. Okay? And that's point number one. Like, I can tell you that I have been, and I want to tell you also why I'm telling you this, is because the last 2 or 3 weeks of members of Congress or quote unquote Democratic sources or what have you going on background and, how did a filter get on here? Oh my God. Okay, I think I turned off. Sorry, guys. The possibility, and okay, sorry. So what's really upset me is that these conversations, I believe in transparency. At the same time, litigating like huge conversations among people of power in public can dramatically hurt our chances, depending on the outcome of that conversation. And so sometimes certain conversations are best held in private, especially if there's ambiguity or a lack of decision on it. And so what I see right now, and I want you all to know, is that over the last several weeks, there have been lots of Democrats who have been giving little anonymous quotes to the press, to some journalists to print. And I'm not here to knock the press on it. I'm here to knock my colleagues on it. Because to me, I think that's, and I'm sorry, I'm going to say it because it's after midnight, that's bullshit. Like, if you have an opinion, say it with your chest and say it in public. But the idea that you are an elected official and you are supposed to be responsible for a community and you're just going to like text some journalist on the low and say, this is what I think, but don't put my name next to it. What are you here to do? If that's your opinion and if that's what you think is best for the country, put your name on it. Okay? But instead, it's all this little pick a little, talk a little to whatever, texting some pundit about what they think because they're too cowardly to like come out with a public opinion.
So I agree. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But I also think I'm like, girl, that's your party. That's the Democratic Party. Again, if there was someone truly at the helm, I mean, shit, I don't know. If Chuck Schumer were actually in control of things, there would be discussions behind closed doors. And I mean, look, I agree with her. It's funny that she's sort of arguing for non-transparency, but I do agree they have to get their ducks in a row and they have to get their shit together. And I do agree it is cowardly to leak some shit to the press that, you know, like she's going to mention here and not put your name on it. I agree with that. But it's indicative of the fact that nobody's at the helm. It's indicative of the fact that there is no plan. It's indicative of the problem with your centrist ass, rudderless ass party. And again, like, we all have, you know, my favorite myth about the Democratic Party is that there's a conspiracy and that they're all working in cahoots to, you know, kill progressives, for example, kill progressive policies, or they're all working in cahoots to, you know, keep Joe Biden in or take him out. They're not working in cahoots about anything. I don't know what is more terrifying to you, that there is no one in the driver's seat, or that you've got like Skeletor or the devil in the driving seat. I'm here to tell you there's nobody in the driver's seat, right? The wheel is up for grabs. There's nobody. It's never a plan. They haven't had a plan to remake the courts the way the right has had a plan. They haven't had a plan to defend Roe v. Wade the way the right has had a plan to dismantle it. They haven't had a plan on climate change. They haven't had a plan on education. They haven't had a plan. I'm so fucking tired of not having a plan. Right? And so you can call them evil, you can call them craven. They're not. They generally like donor money, and they're generally status quo ass motherfuckers. That's what they are. So I hear her on this, but it's just symptomatic of the party itself.
I'm not coming for the people who have made a public statement and put their name on it. Like, Lord knows, I've done plenty of that myself. I'm talking about people who are too scared to say what they want to say in public, but somehow not afraid to say what they want to say to a journalist so long as they promise not to use their name. That's a bunch of horse shit. And then there was recently a quote unquote senior Democratic leader that said, oh, I'm just resigning myself to a Trump victory. Leave your seat. Leave. Just leave.
Yeah, that's abhorrent. I don't know who said that, but we all saw that quote of someone saying we're resigned to a Trump victory. This was after the assassination attempt. Yeah, that's bad news. And I think what AOC is rightfully getting mad at is, yes, the lack of a leadership.
Like, that is so garbage. That is such a fundamental lack of leadership. And I don't care what party you're from. Like, just leave. Like, just go work for a lobbyist. Go cash in on Wall Street if that's what you feel. Like, why keep that seat warm? This job is hard. It takes a lot of effort. You're resigning yourself to losing. Why don't you just turn in your keys early and give it to someone who gives a damn? Anyways, moving on. Number one is the legal viability. Number two, I don't think people understand what it takes in terms of running a presidential campaign. And I'm going to say what a lot of these folks aren't saying. I'm just going to say it. If you think that there is consensus among the people who want Joe Biden to leave, that they will support Vice President Harris, you would be mistaken. And I'm going to say that because if they're going to come out and say all their little things on background off the record, but they're not going to be fully honest, I'm going to be honest for them. I'm in these rooms. I see what they say in conversations. A lot of them are not just interested in removing the president. They are interested in removing the whole ticket. Am I here to guarantee that is what is going to happen, or that is what will happen? I can't tell you that, because as we all know, politics is insane. Anyone who tells you 100% what's going to happen is lying to you or engaged in an enormous amount of hubris. I'm not here to tell you that if Joe Biden is the nominee, he's definitely going to win. But because I don't think if anybody is the nominee, we're definitely going to win. Okay? And I understand where we want to talk about hedging bets.
All right. I sort of disagree with that last point, but that's some tea. That's her basically saying, oh, if you think that people feel that the vice president is the next best person for the job, you would be mistaken. That they're pulling some Machiavellian shit behind closed doors and wanting to completely remake the ticket, which, in my opinion, would be wild. That would be wild. It would, like, and look, we are maybe hours away from Joe Biden actually stepping down from this race. And how he does is very important. And to my mind, look, I don't know whether to be afraid of an open convention, because I don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do give a shit, but I'm just like, I think the anti-Trump caucus, i.e., all of us, can handle an open convention, as much as that might seem scary to some folks, right? But it is uncharted territory right now. The reason I think it should be Vice President Kamala Harris is because of actually not just, she's the fucking vice president. She's in the administration. And to Monica's point early on, and to a lot of people's points, she would then have an obligation and is tied to some of the best policies of Joe Biden. And maybe when it comes to Gaza, some of the worst, but she's commander in chief now. So she can course correct on that. Even a inch of a course correction would be an improvement over where we are right now. But I think she would be the best person for simplicity's sake, for, I think, democracy's sake. If you're not going to have a primary, it basically means you won't allow voters to vote on this. Like, you're going to leave it all up to the delegates, which I think is pretty fucking wild. I think it's pretty wild for the same people who boxed out, or basically were like, we're not going to hold a Democratic primary in lots of states. We're not going to hold debates for sure. In some states, it's just going to be Joe Biden, no matter what you write in. So it'll be a shoo-in for him. In some states, we won't. Yeah, like, it's not even going to be, a primary is not even going to be held. Either it doesn't matter or it's not going to be held. And so if the same people were to do that and then randomly pick like 3 centrists that they like, who, let's keep it 100, would probably be white guys. Fuck you. Like, that's fucking wild. To me, the way out of this is Biden decides to not run for re-election, and he has to endorse his vice president. He has to endorse her. That's it. Now, it's very fun because some people are like, wow, it's funny how leftists love Kamala Harris. Nobody loves Kamala Harris. Nobody said they love Kamala Harris. Nobody said they love Joe Biden. That's why we're in this fucking problem to begin fucking with. Why? Because you have a deeply unpopular candidate who's got some good policies, but it doesn't mean he's not popular. And if of all the people who should be supporting him right now, it would be Joe Biden's base. Where are they? I said base. Come out of the... They don't exist. He was a centrist candidate shoved down our throats by the likes of Barack Obama and COVID-19. And he was buddy-buddy with Bernie, and Bernie refused to actually, fight. And Bernie threw in the towel, which is fine. We beat Trump. It's fine, okay? I'm not actually still mad about it. But so it is real fuckery if what she is saying is correct. And they're like, you know what? We need to let's go back to the drawing board. Because, who knows what that drawing board is? Now, do I think it's a bad look? Yes. It's a bad look, and I can't remember who said this, but many people have said this. It's a bad look to overlook your vice president, who also happens to be a woman of color. And not on some identity politics shit. Because I think it's 5% a bad look on the identity politics shit. You're overlooking the woman of color. But Kamala Harris not only has newness, different, able to string together sentences and succinctly explain herself, albeit with some weird anecdotes and some weird turns of phrase, but we all exist in a context of everything that came before. And, I guess, but they want to literally choose someone who fell out of a coconut tree. But the real thing is, being a woman of color absolutely will excite Democratic voters. I'm sorry if you don't like to hear that, or you think, it should only be about the politics. But guess what? There are people who would get excited about a female president. They already have. She turned out to be the worst female president we could possibly, nomination that we could possibly get. But you know what I'm saying? There are people who would get excited about a woman of color being president. Honestly, a little bit of me would absolutely be excited about that. And this is my big point, there would be people who would pick up the phone and make calls for Kamala Harris. And they're not going to make those calls for Joe Biden. Okay? That's how you win this, is you need volunteers who are excited, who are activated, and who make fucking calls, who knock doors, who write postcards. Those people are not going to turn up for Biden as much as you want to browbeat them, as sad as you might think that is. I don't know how to explain it to you that it's not happening for him, even if his brain were in perfect working order. Even if his brain were in perfect working order, November would still be up for grabs. November would absolutely still be a question mark. I firmly believe. So, but clearly she's spilling tea that we are not privy to.
But I do want you to know what gets uncorked. Because if you think that's going to be an easy transition, I'm here to tell you that a huge amount of the donor class and a huge amount of these elites and a huge amount of these folks in these rooms that I see that are pushing for President Biden to not be the nominee also are not interested in seeing the vice president being the nominee.
Ooh.
Will they win out on that? I don't know. But I am here to tell you, do not take that for granted. Do not take that outcome for granted. It may make sense to you. It may be sorry guys, I don't know why this keeps happening. It may make sense to you. It may be the logical thing, but I'm here to tell you that that is not a sure thing. And so what is the other option? It is still a possibility, right? Let's look at our open possibilities, right? And by the way, President Biden and Vice President Harris have been campaigning their behinds off, and there is a war chest of at least $100 million prepared for the general election. If there is a new Democratic nominee, that money cannot be transferred, okay? I'm just like telling you what I know, all right? It can be transferred from a top of the ticket to number 2 on the ticket. It cannot be transferred to someone else, all right? From what I have known. I can also tell you that I have stood up in rooms with all of these people, and I have said, game out your actual plan for me. Game it out. Have you looked in, like, what are the risks of this going to the Supreme Court? Like, what are these things, right? And I'm not here to like assert any major thing. If y'all want to come with the receipts in the comments, that's fine. But what I can tell you is that I have stood up in rooms of folks making these decisions, and I have raised these questions, and no one had an answer for me. Maybe they have an answer now. I don't know. No one's gotten back to me. But hello, like, nobody responded. Nobody has responded to me. And I'm not talking about some pundit with a column in a newspaper saying theoretically it's possible. I'm talking about the lawyers. I'm talking about the legislatures. I'm not talking about here's how an open convention would go down. I'm talking about people whose job it is to look at the letter of the law and the letter of many different state laws and take a look at this, okay? So while I understand the case that some folks may be making from a theoretical perspective and from even maybe, I don't know, a polling perspective, I'm here to also, like, as a person who is responsible for executing decisions and not just opining on them, I can tell you that I have not seen, I don't know why the fireworks are going off, I have not seen the plan. And when a convention is in, I'm noticing privately.
Hang on, I'm scrubbing ahead.
And I think that people see where he's weak. They don't often see where he's strong. And
no, they don't.
Just electorally. I hear my donor this, my donor that. Those are the inputs that
yeah, I mean, I know it sucks, AOC. Like, I know it sucks that these are donors. But, like, I think Nina Turner said it weeks ago. This is a centrist fight. This is a fight about donors. You know what I'm saying? Like, you all wanted a centrist-ass candidate with no grassroots support, and you got it. And arguably, maybe Biden's earned more of our support. But as much as I shout that into the void, I cannot materialize votes for you. Like, I cannot change people's overall perception that the economy is bad or that genocide is bad. I cannot none of us have a magic wand to do that. And the polls, I mean, if they are to be believed, they are bad. The part of this that she gets into that I really agree with is around defeatism. And she is saying that she does not like the rhetoric and the discussion around, oh, Biden's going to lose in November. And I hope that I have not projected Biden's absolutely going to lose in November, because I don't take that lightly and she doesn't take that lightly. And I agree with her that we should not be flip and we should not be casual about Biden losing in November if he is the nominee, because as she says a little bit later, that's not acceptable. And I agree with her. It's not acceptable for Biden to fucking lose. It's just not, on every single level. It's not acceptable to us. And she says specifically, it's not acceptable to our communities. And that's something where what she's referencing is, my communities that like have the most to lose, stand the most to lose. And let me see if I can scrub to it. I don't remember the time code. I apologize. So forgive me.
I am hearing reflected. I'm here to tell you this is what it is. But what I am here to tell you is some of the red alerts that I'm seeing in our success so readily. And maybe I'm being too risk averse. Maybe I'm not seeing what other people are seeing. I leave space for that. And like, whatever, like maybe I'm taking a big L, but I think that I think they're just real concerns. I think the concerns are valid. I also think that the concerns about the president are valid. I'm not here.
Okay, so wait, I can't find it, but I will. What she says is like, look, you can't fuck around with Trump. The communities that will get hit the hardest are my communities in the Bronx, in Queens. They'll be the first people deported. They'll be the first people, who are targeted. We're talking about mass deportations. The RNC is so casually speaking about things like that. Even people who have birthright citizenship, on and on and on. And she's absolutely right. She's right. And it is sadly some of those communities that have been the most let down by Joe Biden. It is those communities who see that Joe Biden's continued Donald Trump's policies around the border and are like, what gives? It's the Black and brown and all of us who are standing in solidarity, who are against police violence, those communities who are like, what has Biden actually done to address structural racism within policing? Within, why is he so quick to buy into this narrative that the right lays out, that everything is woke, that the military is woke? like it seems like he is a sucker. He's a sucker, and he cannot and he has not stood up to the communities that, let's be real, are the ones who got him elected. Okay? So you have a guy who was elected by young people, by people of color, and by women. A guy who flipped Georgia thanks to incredible amounts of organizing on the ground. And by the way, I just realized that like we should really be phone banking for Cori Bush right now, and we should be. So like everybody make a plan to phone bank for fucking Cori Bush and defend the squad members that we love and actually focus on local elections. Everybody follow Seed the Vote. That's what you need to do, and sign up to phone bank. All right, do it. Let's fucking do it. But we're on national elections right now. Sadly, the communities who are the most hit, and you can, white people and elitists love to be like, often, not always, they're not always these people, but they all love to be like, oh yeah, and enjoy Trump. Well, you're gonna get deported. Oh, why don't they turn out? Well, don't they realize, and aren't they stupid? And the Muslims are gonna be the ones who suffer most. And it's like not working. None of that is working. You cannot. When people live in fear, when they're used to living in fear, when they're used to politicians not actually speaking to their needs, you can't threaten them with a worse time. It's very difficult to do that to people who are already struggling. It's just a losing game. So again, I agree with her that those are the communities that stand the most to lose, but those are also the communities that have been most demobilized by the policies of Joe Biden. And the fact that I cannot keep Joe Biden and Donald Trump straight in my mind, it says less about my mind and more about the state of the country. Anyway, let's move on a little bit. Let's do a little, should we do a little palate cleanse here? I want to talk about JD Vance. A lot of people said that JD Vance's speech at the RNC was boring. I kind of disagree. I found JD Vance's speech at the RNC kind of human. In a sea of weird sycophants and weird angles, and like everyone's like, just Kimberly Guilfoyle's yada ha ya 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 ya. I thought JD Vance was normal, and he projected a normal ass guy. He projected even more than that. He projected what he loves to project, which is a fake working class guy. And so here's just a little moment that I'm sure you all saw, or maybe you didn't, but here's just a taste of the kinds of things he said. And then one particular moment that I haven't found the clip, but I'll just tell you about it.
Now, I pledge to every American, no matter your party, I will give you everything I have to serve you and to make this country a place where every dream you have for yourself, your family, and your country will be possible once again.
But particularly if you're a venture capitalist, I see you and I will do everything for you and your family.
And I promise you one more thing. To the people of Middletown, Ohio, and all the forgotten communities in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, and every corner of our nation, I promise you this: I will be a vice president who never forgets where he came from.
What about California? What if you're like just like a young Latino skater in fucking California? You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck you. I'm just so sick. I'm so sick. Are we done with this middle America bullshit narrative? So sick of it. I'm so sick of white nationalists and their fucking narratives about who votes and who matters and whose fucking like struggles actually count. So sick. But anyway, that's the flavor. And not only that, and this is just so upsetting, but you began to saw glimmers at the RNC of what you've seen from Trump more broadly, which is picking up some of the speaking points of the former Democratic Party, not the racist former Democratic Party, but the FDR former Democratic Party, right? The populism, the everyday working man, right? And in this speech, he also, the forgotten people, in the speech, he also hammered on Biden for his support of NAFTA, the North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement, that, yes, was between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. I mean, if you think it fucked our country up, look at Mexico. But yes, was absolutely devastating and was fought by so many labor unions in this country and social movements and labor movements abroad, people who were fighting tooth and nail against this. And you know who was fighting for it? Corporations. They won big time. They could freely go to the cheapest place to produce goods. They could flood the Mexican market with cheap corn, GMO produced from Middle America, and decimate their economy as well. So, and the fact that our best chance of really, really taking up the mantle, taking the lane of the Democrats are no longer the party of free trade policies, that died with Bernie Sanders' campaign. I mean, for now, right? But we had it. We were so close. Bernie Sanders was decrying those. And you know what's so funny? And it's my favorite moment, my favorite irony of the Obama administration. I don't know if you guys remember this, but the Pacific, the TPP, right? The Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was a big difference. Remember in 2016 between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, no more free trade deals. Yes, for the free trade deals. Guess who was for it? It was Obama. And guess who loved Obama for like 3 months? Republicans. Republicans took to the House floor and the Senate floor, and they were like, why can't you pass the TPP or whatever it was? Like, why can't you? We love our president. Orrin Hatch, I think he was a senator. It's like Orrin Hatch was like, why don't you support Obama? Because they love free trade. But here's JD Vance pretending like he's not bought and sold by venture capital, like he is not bought and sold by oil money, because he absolutely is. He accepted. Hang on. Let's bring a couple receipts. This is from Politico. Vance changed his tune on climate change. Oil cash flowed in. There's some actual specifics. In the oil and gas industry spent more than $283,000 on Vance's 2022 campaign, more than they gave to all but 18 other members of Congress. I mean, Vance has said he would like to get rid of the Inflation Reduction Act. But President Joe Biden's landmark climate bill has benefited his home state. For example, it provided $500 million to repower a steel plant with cleaner energy in Middletown, Ohio. Like, this is literally Vance's hometown, whose economic challenges he chronicles in the book Hillbilly Elegy. This is your talking point. It's on a platter. Joe Biden gave your town that you made famous. You fucking used your plight. You poor thing. You had to be, oh God, it sucks to be poor. That's what your whole book was. God, I can't thank God I went to Harvard. Fuck the poor. That was basically his book. Now Joe Biden gave you $500 million for a steel plant. This is the line. This is what you campaign on. I mean, if you're Kamala, I mean, if you're Joe, I mean, if you're anyone. Like, so the Republicans are paper thin on populism. They're paper thin populists. And it's so easy to poke holes in their bullshit narrative. And yet we don't have actual candidates or an actual candidate who is doing that. Right? We got a corn on the cob in front of us, and we're just dentureless. You know what I'm saying? We are just gumming this corn. I don't even know. I don't know. Whatever analogy works for you. And by the way, it's bad enough that JD Vance has been bought and sold by venture capitalists, that it's truly scary, the kinds of the billionaire tech bros, the libertarians, the extremists, the Peter Thiels who have lined his pockets and are now funneling their money into the RNC. I mean, it is, guys, it's truly dystopian. Like, it's fiction wishes it could be this good. But, I'm on a fucking platform right now owned by a tech billionaire. Like, we're all funneling our money to these a-holes. They are stealing our jobs, our fresh water resources, our electrical resources. They're sucking energy, man. They are killing the planet so that, we can create AI girlfriends and shit. Like, and they are refunneling all the money that they're earning back into our political system. And Silicon Valley is no longer, I'm apolitical, I'm taking a back seat. No, Silicon Valley is now Elon Musk with $45 million pledged to Donald Trump. It is the most class war we have seen, y'all. We are truly in perilous times. It's fucking wild. And it doesn't go away in November. It does not go away after November if somehow Democrats eke out a victory. But anyway, I speak in caveats. I don't know if you've been following my show long enough to understand Francesca speaks in caveats. Because, long digressions, caveats and long digressions. I mean, that really should be the name of the podcast. Caveats and long digressions. It's not just that he is a venture capitalist, little, blood boy, but he's such a cultural conservative. Like, he does want to ban abortion nationally. He said that in 2022. He is all in on the Handmaid's Tale fucking future. And he has so much disdain for women and for like actual family values. And here he is. If you remember this, I mean, this is back from when Tucker Carlson was actually on air. No, buddy, don't do this to me. I have the EFF privacy badger on everything, so it like stops all my shit. Because it's like, we can't run enough ads on this. Looks like you're using something that we hate now. Oh God. Oh look. Oh, an Israeli ad. I love it. Oh wait, this is great. This is amazing. If you're listening, just listen to my outrage. Oh boy. Oh yeah, Israeli national team, fly the flag. Okay, this is for an airline, an Israeli airline. Oh boy. Okay, so here's JD Vance.
That's what he asked, and they went completely bananas. So we thought it'd be interesting to talk to JD Vance about what he meant and what it's like to be attacked for saying Washington Post and the Atlantic. They mean it. You almost never see these people. One of them is JD Vance. He didn't need to run for office, but he is. He's running for Senate.
He didn't need to. I love the idea that, like, you know, these people are doing us a favor for running for office.
Places like the Daily Beast and the Washington Post and the Atlantic, the axis or protectors of the ruling class, have gone crazy. They hate him. They really hate him. And that's how you know he means it. Well, the latest example came on Friday in Alexandria. JD Vance made a pretty obvious point. He said the childless left, that's how he put it, lacks, quote, physical commitment to the future of this country. Quote, why is this just a normal fact of life for the leaders of our country to be people who don't have a personal and direct stake in it via their own offspring? That's what he asked, and they went completely bananas. So we thought it'd be interesting to talk to JD Vance about what he meant and what it's like to be attacked for saying things that are so obviously true.
Oh, is someone dabbling in the great replacement theory / Western civilization is under attack / we need to have as many babies as we can and control women's bodies and basically turn them into uteruses and wombs for the future of the white race? I mean, specifically white. Let's obviously be real. Let's have him on.
He joins us tonight. JD Vance, thanks so much for coming on. So tell us what...
Two men who've never made a woman come. Look at this. I mean, it's fun to be in good company.
That was just a very short snippet of a much longer speech, and a really interesting speech that people, I think, should read. But what were you saying?
Thanks, Tucker. And by the way, if folks want to help us out, jdvance.com. Every little bit helps if you can throw us a couple bucks. But look.
Spoiler, he won, and he didn't need your couple bucks, you fucking rube.
What I was basically saying is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. And so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's
okay. You know what I'm saying? Do you hear what I'm talking about? First of all, he knows where he is. He's on Tucker Carlson. He's got to bring some kind of misogynist fire. But yeah, we're being run by childless cat ladies. First of all, I take issue with that as someone who is both a cat lady and a baby lady, which honestly, I prefer the term baby lady than mom. But like the idea that like, oh yeah, the Democrats they're just childless cat ladies. Yeah. Don't see any men in the Democratic Party, just like the president. He's what? Okay. There's that. And then that, like, who else is being run? Oh, the corporate oligarchs. The corporate oligarchs are childless cat ladies because one corporation has a quota to be at least 20% made up of women. That's why the corporate oligarchs are bad. By the way, I am bought and sold by the corporate oligarchs. Palantir, fucking Peter Thiel and PayPal. All right. Do you not include tech companies in the corporate oligarchy? I'm pretty sure they're a big part of it.
It's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've...
Isn't this amazing? So this is, you're kind of seeing, and this is a throwback, but if Kamala Harris is the front runner, they will absolutely hammer her over not having kids. And I think that that's an opportunity for her to talk about reproductive rights and the choice that we all get to make. I think it's brilliant. Fucking go after her for not having kids. But also, like, who has been fighting for universal pre-K? Who has been fighting for expanded Medicaid that helps poor families and babies? Who has been fighting for women and children? You childless cat ladies, and having children, honestly, it shouldn't guarantee you any more of a say. It should actually lessen the say that you have, because, you know, you're spawning more of you. You're taking up more real estate, more space, right? You're already taking up space with all your spawn and people. Let the people who decided not to spawn take up that same amount of space. I say they get vote and a half.
Turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it. I just wanted to ask that question and propose that maybe if we want a healthy ruling class in this country, we should invest more, we should vote more, we should support more people who actually have kids, because those are the people who ultimately have a more direct stake in the future of this country.
Yeah, I think he's right. I mean, and by the same token, I think that we should support people who will be around to see the fruits of their policies. And so I think we should vote for no one who is older than 40. I think between 18 and 40, because that's how long it takes policies to be implemented and to even, to feel the impact. And the fact that most people, especially Donald Trump and Joe Biden, are going to be dead by the time we feel the worst effects of climate change, it sort of nixes them out of the entire equation here. But so, my guy is a Christian nationalist fundamentalist. He is a Mike Johnson. And yet, secretly going on Grindr at the RNC, which I think is our, how are the Grindr stats going around? Okay. Apparently the Republicans crashed Grindr, y'all. So again, the same people who want to take away all your rights to bodily autonomy and also think that being gay is gross, they crashed Grindr. Hookups are on the rise during the RNC this week. Milwaukee Journal Sentinel says, according to Google search trends, it's been one of the hot topics on the people's minds in Milwaukee, particularly regarding the dating app Grindr. One user in Milwaukee said there's been a major bump in anonymous users. On any day, you'll go in there and see a headless torso or a blank profile. So the source, who did not want to be named, he explained that the profile typically means a user is looking for a fling and not a relationship. The Grindr user said on a normal day, you encounter maybe 10 users with no profile photo. But Thursday, when he checked the app, he stopped counting at 50 blank profiles. He says, if that's the case, it aligns with Grindr activity during the previous national conventions. Yeah. At the 2016 RNC in Cleveland, a Vice article cited sources from Grindr saying that the area around the 2016 convention's main hub saw user traffic increase by 66%. Democrats flocked to the app during their convention too. The same article said Grindr reported a 148% increase. Hell yeah, we got them beat. We got them beat because we're open. A few super chats. Thank you guys so much for supporting this show. If you want to support this show, it gets demonetized on YouTube because I drop F-bombs left and right. Support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. If you want to thank me for doing extra content, that means a lot. We are a tiny, mighty team, and I truly give everything that I earn back to it. And it's hard. Times are tough, and I understand they're tough for everybody, but $2 a month, even $5 a month if you can spare it. $10 a month gets you that shout out during the fart song. And again, thank you, John Reed. The show is in your honor. And you can also tip the show, TBR-Live on Venmo, TBR Live on Cash App, or you can send in a super chat or a super sticker like Benjamin Morrill, who says, Butcher Biden is a Zionist who could not care about a wink about a peace deal, not telling you who to vote for, but I can't get over that. I need young blue, can't be Biden, never Trump, AOC getting played. Some good points. I don't think a ceasefire is around the corner on Biden's watch, honestly. But I I would love to be proven wrong. BO, great name. Thank you for that super chat on YouTube. AOC, Joe Out'll reshape race in our favor. Let's go ahead with a new dynamic team and reshape the race narrative. Reasonably competent people versus crazy DJT base. Agreed. Wasted post, as I feel like people clinging to Biden aren't fully understanding how depressing millions of Americans find out our current choices to be. Yes, they see two old egotistical men who inspire no hope. Yes, I mean, AOC drawing correlation between her race and Biden's race is just like, it could not be more apples and oranges. And she does that in that live. And you're like, you were a young, upstart, progressive person of color, like woman. You had so much going for you. And you had Joe fucking Crowley that everyone forgot even existed. I mean, I'm just like, you cannot underestimate the again, shot of adrenaline that a new candidate would bring. Progressive Boomer, you've been a member for a year on YouTube. Thanks so much. Fran Wham Bam, thank you, ma'am. No, thank you. Flower Dragon, member for 4 months. Says, Franny, I love you. Thank you for being so great and keeping it real. I'm an expat watching from Germany. Dang, these are crazy times. Oh, you did the right thing, girl. Get out of here. Just go. Dizzle McFizzle, that's such a generous super chat. K-Hived and Coconut Pilled. Yeah, let's like we're all in this together. Just Julie, what a generous super chat. Thank you. Says, please mask up. It's not about just you. It's about everyone. COVID is not the flu. Current estimates have 1 in 25 people currently infected in the Western region. Social responsibility starts with us. Agreed. Yeah, I'm so like certain places I will mask and certain places I won't. Like I'll mask in if I ever take flights. I'll obviously in the airport and the flight, but then I'm like, I don't necessarily mask in my local grocery store. And you know, I feel like that's on me. I should be a little bit more cognizant even now. And yeah, I don't want fucking COVID again. Nobody should want COVID again. And there are many people suffering long COVID. Still Alive says, I don't know if you covered it, but AOC also says the donor class don't want Kamala Harris. That's what's worrying me. Yeah, who do you think makes up the donor class? It's a whole bunch of people who don't think they're Peter Thiel, but are Peter Thiel. Savage, Game 5. I don't think non-white Americans will be deported even if Trump wins. Be real. With two parties controlling Congress and the Senate, nothing will ever pass. I don't know if they need Senate's approval. I also don't want to find out. But we do know that Customs and Border Patrol fucking love Donald Trump, and we know they're buck wild. We know they do whatever the fuck they want. So I wouldn't put it past anybody. And I really don't love playing this game of, oh, Trump can't do that. Or, you know, we'll have the courts to stop it. Or we'll rise up. We should rise up. We should have the courts. But do not put it past Donald Trump to do some shit. We've been down this road once. I don't want to. We fucked around. We found out. Do we want to find out again? I don't think so. Do you want the likes of Paul Manafort in the White House and Steve Bannon and motherfucking Peter Navarro just getting out of jail? Like, these people are termites on government. They are there to dismantle it. They are there. Stephen Miller, his goal is to deport as many immigrants as possible. And then his penis will grow half an inch each time. And then he'll just have a very long schlong. Gross. See? You made me say it. JCast, thank you for that. I've gone extra long today. JCast saying AOC equals burnout equals delusional. Maybe. I don't think she's delusional. I think she makes some good points. And so I try to give her credit on the good points, and I sort of went into the things that I disagreed with. But you know what? You need to support this goddamn show. Become a patron right now. A patron, a part of the Frantifa. I'm going to be on TYT very soon, probably talking about a lot of these things. And next week, oh God, I couldn't go on Piers Morgan this week because I was busy, but thank fuck, because he's been on about his God Emperor Donald Trump. Like, oh, Donald Trump. Isn't it true that all the rhetoric is about Donald Trump is leading to his death? Bitch, no one's talking about that anymore. We're on to other shit now. Put a patch on your ear and move on. Anyway, I might be on next week. We will see. I might be on, again, a nightmare blunt panel. I love you all so much. Go see Matt Lieb and I at the Lincoln Lodge on August 19th and 20th. Get your tickets at Eventbrite or francescafiorentini.com. It's going to be so good. 19th is the live podcast, and 20th is stand-up. I promise you some amazing guests. So get your ass there. And if not, it will be other places too. Okay. Love ya. See you Tuesday. Bye.